Oh, here we are at the last video I have to record tonight. VU meter's still working. I think the capture is still working. I think everything's still working. Good. Now, I've mentioned what this is at least a couple times now, at least maybe some of the broad strokes. But I'm gonna read out the story and what's actually what, and I might have to fill in what's actually going on in certain parts because, well, yeah, we can trust the media, right? We can totally do that, right? But anyway, there's a lot of big drama. In fact, I spent, oh gosh, well north of an hour covering the last major ruling in this for quite anyway, let's see if I can. This is the story of the current status of things with the Bingham County Republican Party. Let's transition over if we can. So, this is where the story is right now, and this is why we don't have to be hearing about any appeals at the state meeting now. Idaho GOP Chair Dorothy Moon to be in Blackfoot, that's Bingham County, Monday for Bingham County Republican Party reorganization meeting. Well, oh, there's even a couple of comments right there. Probably trash comments. But anyway, well, interesting photo. Oh, they got what's his face, and then I think that's Michelle Hamilton on the yeah. Anyway. Oh man, these newspaper ads in web pages are getting obnoxious. But anyway, let's see if I can make this bigger. Okay, here we are. Blackfoot. So we're starting there. After a year and a half of legal battles, you don't say. Why is that? Year and a half of legal battles, the Idaho Republican Party chairwoman Dorothy Moon will be in Blackfoot to help reorganize the Bingham County Republican Party's leadership. You don't say. Why is that? I thought she wasn't able to. I thought she was told by a judge to not do that. At least that's the way some of you degenerates put it. But the meeting will be at 7 p.m. Monday, December 30, at the Bingham Academy, located at a place I'm not going to need to know. The controversy began in July of 2023. I even mentioned this at the time, I think. When Bingham County GOP Chairman Dan Craven's bitty, that's all, folks, resigned because he was moving out of state. I remember I was at the state executive committee meeting in the gallery at the Chalice meetings when I heard this was happening. And that filled my heart so full of joy. I didn't know that it was going to be the impetus for a bunch of really unnecessary drama, but here we are. At that time, a vote was held by Bingham County Republicans, and Matt Thompson was elected. Yeah, it's kind of glossing over something, isn't it? I'll give you a chance to say what you glossed over here in a moment. Here, okay. However, the state party leader said the election wasn't done correctly and announced they would come in September to redo the election. Well, you know why they said that? It's because you cannot preside over the election of your chosen successor, yeah, outside of a reorg meeting. Reorg meetings don't happen in July. And also, it's kind of funny how the timing was. When Dan Cravens knew he was going to be moving and when all of this started. And how would I know what he knew at the time? Well, it might come up. But so anyway, they're going to redo the election right here. Bingham County filed an appeal that wasn't heard to stop the reorganization meeting and then asked courts for an injunction on the reorganization. Well, that's a bit mangling the timeline, don't you think? But the judicial process inside of the Idaho Republican Party is, in fact, a thing. And yes, you can appeal decisions made by a state chair. But then you get all screwy. Let's see, that was granted with the promise of an official ruling on the merits to come later. Well, it did come later. But anyway, in February of 2024, Judge Darren Simpson ruled that the state was correct and the election of Thompson was invalid. I covered it at the time. I think it was in March where I did a video on the whole thing, and I basically said, Judge says, yes, Bingham County GOP has to follow the law. Anyway, I could ramble on about that specific point for a while. I'm just going to keep going. Really obnoxious ads. Since that ruling, the Bingham County Republicans have conceded, but the fallout continued. No, they conceded a lot later. This is a blatant lie by the media right here. But okay. But the fallout continued. Well, of course it would. Because because of how the Bingham County GOP leadership was acting. The county party delegates were excluded from the state Republican convention in June of 2024 because they hadn't paid their dues, and their plea due to hardship was ignored. Okay, there's a lot of context, and ignored is definitely not the right word here. And this is where I come in. So this story goes back a lot farther than a lot of people realize, but last minute I had decided, okay, yeah, I'm going to join a few friends down at the Riverside Hotel for the for the 2017 winter meeting. So I'm a really fresh precinct committeeman. I still don't know a whole lot of what's actually going on, but hey, the state level's doing a bunch of stuff. It's not a convention, but we'll hear resolutions and rule. You can. This will be a good chance for you to pay attention and stuff, Matt. So I go down to the resolutions committee, and I find a couple of things that are very interesting that day. One was a convention of states resolution, and the other was a jury nullification resolution, which would later greatly interest me. But in the ensuing discussion about the resolutions that were on the docket that day, one Dan Cravens, who was on that resolutions committee, quoted the actual rules that we have in the Idaho Republican Party that says that there has to be a 30-day gap between a county chair resigning, and an election to replace them. He actually quoted that rule at me. And I also remember that meeting quite clear, especially a lot of the things that Dan Cravens was saying at that meeting, because it wasn't all that much later when the jury nullification resolution was being discussed. And he called everyone in the room who supported jury nullification as a bunch of racists who want to hang black people. No, I'm not kidding. Dan Cravens said that. This was I think, yeah, it would always have to be the first weekend of January 2017. He said that kind of thing. So not only is this thing where he already knew what the rules were, and the rule hadn't been changed, since it still hasn't, but he also said this really egregious thing where jury nullification supporters just want to hang black people. That's what he said. That's literally what he said. Anyway, I'll continue on before I get really angry about that. But the local party was okay, so they hadn't paid their dues. So I would always pay attention to what Dan Craven said a lot. And one of the things that I would come to find out, both right before that winter meeting in 2017, but in the months and years that would follow, is that there's always been this schism and this conflict with Ada County GOP and the rest of the county GOP, counties GOP and all the districts and whatnot. Everyone else mostly rightly had a problem that Ada County GOP was not paying its dues, or quota as it was called at the time. One of the leading voices in that whole argument was Dan Craven saying Ada's not paying its dues. Ada's not paying its quota. Where is the money that Ada should be paying? He was one of those voices, and so the problem would keep going on. It would never really truly get fixed until we got rid of Victor Miller. And and right at around the time that we were getting rid of Victor Miller, we put in the rule to tie, because this is really the only way that you can actually put punitive actions on a county for not paying its dues. That's really the only way that you can actually do this long term with any kind of real teeth on it, is that you give the consequences of not going to a convention, or your participation is severely diminished if you don't pay your quota, or it would later become dues. This is the only way you can really do it. So we fixed that problem. And not only that, but Ada was paying its dues. And these people, including Dan Craven, said a lot of really awful things about counties that would not pay their quota to the state party. And said a lot of really awful things, running his mouth for years and years about this. As soon as that's fixed, he's a part of a situation in which Bingham County isn't able to pay its dues. Now, the thing that those of us who worked together for that rule change that allowed us to do the delegate selection thing with tying it to the dues, we put in a waiver, and the waiver language say, hey, yeah, if for whatever reason you're not able to pay, tell the state executive committee about it, and they might grant you. They have they have the power then to grant you a waiver or not. Their waiver was absolutely heard. It is not correct to say that it was ignored. And Bingham County was in a financial hardship, but the reason why they were in a financial hardship is because they spent all their money suing Dorothy Moon and the state party. And everybody knew it too. It wasn't a secret that they had spent all their money doing this. So it's not that it was ignored. It was not ignored. Everybody else just knew very well what the hell was going on. So the reporter right here, they blatantly lied. The local party was struggling to pay the legal costs for its court battles. No crap. Wasn't a secret. And they paid for it in not only money, but in their convention participation. And they very well knew that this was going to be an issue, because Bingham County was definitely there at the Chalice meeting. This was definitely going to be a problem for them if they were not able to pay, because it was these Bingham County GOP types, these Trent Clark types, these Don Hatch types, these former establishment types. They're always picking on Ada County. But now all of a sudden you're not, but oh, woe is me when Ada starts paying your dues, and not only is Ada paying its dues, but you're not. So it's just a bunch of vapid jaw-jacking all those years ago. Or what? Anyway. Moon was reelected. That's a great memory right there. I played Sechimaris over it, in fact. Over at the state convention, though. This is only barely relevant here, but I guess it's just to establish Moon was still state chair. Moon has maintained that the re-election of Bingham County's party is likely to yield the same results. You don't say. And this is, and this is, this is why this is Bingham County's fault to begin, because they knew what the rules were. They were told what the rules were. And they decided to misbehave anyway. And then they doubled, triple, quadrupled down over it to the point where they lost all, they had to pay all their money. And they lost their seat at a convention. But that it needed to be done right. It remains to be seen if a vote during the holidays will fully represent the local party and reinstate Thompson or not. Reinstate is not the right word here, because he was never legitimately elected in the first place. So that's a lie, right down there. That's a lie. And vote during the holidays will fully represent. Well, maybe you should have thought about that kind of thing before you started running your mouth and suing everybody. Just saying. But if I've seen the former establishment really move people when it really wants, and I've seen them do that the day before Christmas Eve. So I don't imagine. Well, this is years ago, but if that's not going to be a problem, even in the way out far-flung counties of Idaho, if on Christmas Adam it wasn't a problem, then this won't be a problem, especially if all that smack you've been talking over the years was correct. Is that the end of the story? That's the end of the story. Yeah, okay, it's just okay. So I'm just gonna transition back. So that's the end of that story, at least for now. Word is that Bingham County is probably going to be able to participate in the winter meeting, and if that's the case, well then, good. Where have you been? This all could have been avoided if Bingham County GOP had just followed the rules of which they were definitely aware, and not only that, but they were made aware. And I know it's not in this story, but in another story they tried to say that, I think it was Ben Furman that tried to say that Dorothy Moon didn't have clean hands on this, where on day 31 out of a 30-day window, they were informed that they had not done the thing right. Well, that was not necessarily informing them, because they already knew. And the reason why we know that is because Dan Cravens already knew what the rules were, and he'd known for years, because he had quoted that at me before. Not only that, but the breach in the rules was identified at that meeting where Dan Cravens falsely presided over the election of his replacement. That was even brought up by one of the PCs at the time. So it's a complete lie that Dorothy Moon didn't have clean hands on this. No, you guys were just playing ignorant and thinking nobody would notice. We noticed. A lot. A lot of us noticed. So that's where things are. I'm not entirely sure that this is going to be the last of it, but I need to go to bed, so I'm just going to say blessings here and upload everything. So see y'all later. Blessings.